I will be more than happy to help you along with your journey whenever the case arises. Feel free to reach out to me and I'll help you out. Okay, so let's start with fermentation. So what do we know about fermentation? Does anybody really know what fermentation is? Fermentation is, if you go by chemistry, that is, fermentation is conversion of uh, carbohydrates, right, uh, into alcohol by the action of yeast, and there is some carbon dioxide produced in the process, right? Uh, the important thing here is that that is how alcohol was made, right? But when this process happens, fermentation also creates a lot of other uh, smaller, minuscule amounts of other products that happen because of other things present. Let's say, for example, oxygen is present. So whatever alcohol is being made, some of it might get oxidized and make acetic acid, right? Or as what we call as vinegar, right? So fermentation has been around for ages immemorial. Fermentation, they say that the beer was made around 13,000 years ago. And they've also found traces of fermentation of something which is very similar to sauerkraut in Indus Valley civilization. So fermentation, as we understand, goes back a long way. Now, when we are talking about fermentation today, we talk about fermentation from the point of view of health, of longevity, of gut health, of curing diseases, and all of that. But why actually fermentation came into picture was again an accidental discovery. I'm sure. I mean I can't say anything for sure because it's been what 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 years ago maybe. But fermentation, the main job of fermentation is preservation of food. Okay? When you ferment something, you can ferment things to preserve them longer. So I'll give you an example. The cheese is fermented and it stays longer than milk. Milk can get spoiled. Yes. Let's say your rice can get spoiled, but if you ferment them, you can make idli batter, dosa batter, right? Uh, so all of these things, you ferment them and you make sodas or you make vinaigrettes, you can see them very long. Fermentation is the thing, right? Now there is also pickling and there is drying and there's of course smoking. Basically, these are all practices. The different practices of food preservation. But what makes fermentation very special is fermentation not only helps you preserve food, but also increases the nutrient value of the food. When I say increases the nutrient value, meaning, say, when you eat an apple, apple has a lot of vitamin and minerals and fiber and sugar and some fat and some protein maybe, but mostly all of that and tasty, of course. But when you ferment the apple, say for making a vinegar or say apple cider vinegar, right? When you're fermenting it, the sugar is converted into alcohol. That alcohol is converted into acids, either by oxidation or by bacteria. And that process helps preserve the apple. Of course, the form of apple has changed, but at least it's not wasted. But also during that fermentation process, you will have a lot of healthy acids and enzymes that are being produced, and also a lot of healthy bacteria that are either produced, they reproduce, they generate during that whole process, and they are very, very healthy for your gut health. And you, of course, when I say gut health, again, for the rest of the session, whenever I talk about gut health, the gut health is directly responsible for the rest of your system, rest of your body. So whenever I say it's responsible for your gut health, it implies that it is good for the rest of your body as well, whether it's immunity, whether it is your athletic, your immunity or your skin health or your brain fog or fermented food is supposed to be really good at autism. Uh, I've heard from people real life scenarios when people have claimed that they've got better because they had fermented food in their diet. Yeah. So all of these things are there. So now we understand that fermentation started as a method of food preservation. And somewhere along the lines, somebody realized that fermentation also gave them very good skin and very good hair and perhaps good nails and better vision, and they slept better, and they were less stressed. And all of these things, all of these things have happened because of the fermentation process and the vitamin B12, vitamin C, a lot of healthy acids and enzymes that help you with all of this. So as you know, in today's world, one of the most deficient vitamins is vitamin B12, right? And there are not a lot of good sources of vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is synthesized by bacteria, which are present in the soil. So unless you are plucking a fruit or pulling a radish out or a carrot out right out of the soil, there's a less chance that you're getting enough B12 that you should be getting. Earlier, people used to eat a lot of organic produce and a lot of farm fresh food, which does not happen anymore. Uh, as you would know, that vegans have a lot of B12 issues more than vegetarians, which have more B12 issues more than animals. Again, females in general have more B12 issues than men have. So this is how it goes. So what can actually help is when you consume raw, unpasteurized, fermented food. It could be anything. It could be kombucha, kimchi, sauerkraut, fermented vegetables, all of that. They could be very, very good for improving your B12 levels. And we've had clients who just included, say, kombucha in their diet. If that's one change that they've made in their diet, and they've had beautiful results. They've come and told me that Vikram, my B12 level has gone up from say 270 to about 450, 500, and we never claim such a thing. But when people come back to us with all these stories, that really uh, strengthens our thoughts about fermented food and how it impacts the gut health, etc. Now going back, so we know that the fermented food that are available in India are kanji, that is made by. There are 2 or 3 different versions of kanji that you can get. One is the kanji that you get in Delhi and the north of India, Punjab, etc., which is made by black carrots during winters. There is another version which is made in the rice-eating areas of the country, and rice-eating areas of the country, like Orissa, Bengal, South India, and there, basically, you're again fermenting it, and it's also and rice becomes a source of carbohydrates, and it's fermented and becomes a source of sugar, and it's fermented for making kanji. And then there is always beetroot kanji that is available across India as well in a lot of places. Again, beetroot is a very good replacement for carrot, and hence then there is idli. Now, idli is not a probiotic, but it's a fermented food nevertheless. We will also talk about this. So anything that is heated over a certain point, uh, the bacteria and all the healthy things sort of die, and then it's not a probiotic anymore. It is only fermented food. So it probably is less in sugar. It's healthier. It's lighter, easier to digest, but it's not a probiotic. For something to be probiotic, it has to have live bacteria, and other microorganisms that help you with your gut health. Pro means good, and probiotics are these good bacteria in general that are present in the food in general, and of course in our gut health, in our gut as well. Uh, as you might know, prebiotics are the food for probiotics. So, say fiber is a prebiotic, uh, lactobacillus is a probiotic, and then there are postbiotics. Postbiotics are the things that are produced by the probiotics, or the dead bodies or the dead cells, or the leftovers of the probiotics are also called postbiotics. They have a significant impact, and I think uh, you know Diksha and the team does a wonderful job, and they could probably tell you a lot more in deep about something like this. Coming back to fermented food. Now, so we've talked about kanji, we've talked about idli. What about yogurt? Yogurt is one of the most popular fermented food across the globe. And yogurt is nothing but milk which is fermented, and it is turned into yogurt. You can also make cheese, which is again fermented, right? Then what else? What else? What else do we ferment? Dhokla. Dhokla is another Indian snack that is fermented. Again, mind you, because if it's heated, if it's steamed, it's not a probiotic. Dhokla is not probiotic, but definitely very healthy, very light, quite satiating. and healthier in general than something that is not fermented, made with similar ingredients. Right. Now, when we look at the world, people have been using fermented food in different ways. Alcohol played a very important role in popularizing fermented food because beer was one of the first ferments and first alcohols that was produced. About they have different versions, but there is a theory that it's got made about 13,000 years ago. Then another one which is about 7,000 years ago. But nevertheless, at that point, fermentation, like I said, does produce alcohol. And at that point, when people used to ferment without these sophisticated gadgets, etc., they used to have about 1.5% at best alcohol in the drinks, and that people used to have gallons of it. Now imagine you are having a fermented food or beverage, and you're having a loads and loads of it, and very little of amount of alcohol. So it was great because they were consuming so much fermented food, and it used to help them with the gut health. They didn't have all these diseases that we know exist today, like diabetes and heart diseases and other sort of lifestyle diseases that we have today. They did not exist. Of course, people worked hard, but they also they ate healthier. There were no ways of preservation. So fermentation was a very fermentation was very instrumental in keeping communities together. Right? Like even today, when you want to make yogurt at home, you would ask a neighbor. Not anymore. Maybe you can order some yogurt and Instamart or Swiggy or Zomato or whatever. But even today, if you want to make yogurt, you need some other yogurt. So this is so if you go to Korea, you will have kimchi, which is a very popular ferment. They use tons of it, and they say that Korean women will have the longest lifespan in the world by 2030. And because of the virtue of kimchi, they consume a lot of kimchi every day. I've lived there. I never thought we will make kimchi or we will eat kimchi, but as luck would have it, we do. And it's become very popular lately in India because of the K culture, the K-pop, the K-drama, etc., etc. Kombucha is very popular. Kombucha has been around for about 2,300 years, and kimchi has been around for uh, about 6,000 years, or maybe more or less, something like that. There are 700 different kinds of kimchis available. Kombucha originated again in China because it's a tea-based beverage. It probably originated in China somewhere, as the legend goes, and it's spread in the last about 100 years. It spread across the globe, and it was commercialized around 30 years ago. And since then, kombucha has been growing rapidly. There is also kvass, which is very similar to kanji. It's made with beetroots. It's a Russian beverage, Russian ferment, very popular, low sugar, very healthy, super healthy. You know how beetroots are healthy, and when you ferment them, the sugar level definitely goes back to zero. And there are a lot of probiotics, and it's amazing. It's very satiating as well, very filling, very nice beverage. Then you have water kefir, which is quite popular. Milk kefir, which is popular in the Central Asia. There is ginger beer, which is very popular across the globe. Now you have ginger ales, which are available in the market, like Schweppes, etc. These are not fermented beverages, but originally the ginger beer was fermented, and it used to be lightly alcoholic, carbonated, etc., and very healthy. People used to give it to, even to children for upset stomach, etc. It was brilliant. And somewhere in the 18th century, they started commercializing it by carbonating water and adding some ginger flavor at some point, and that's about that. Uh, there are other ferments available in the market, say like fermented vegetables. Fermented vegetables are really popular. Even the soy sauce that you get, traditionally, soy sauces are fermented for years sometime, and they're very popular. There is tepe, there is koji, there is natto. There are a lot of other ferments that you can do. There is tepache. So today, when towards the end of the session, we will also talk about tepache. We will actually show you how to make tepache. We will also show you how to make fermented vegetables. Fermented vegetables are amazing. You can use them so easily at home every day with your regular meals. You don't have to make any special effort for them. That's that. Now, let's talk about kombucha for a second, because kombucha is one very popular, and kombucha will help you understand the rest of the fermented food as well. It will sort of fermented food are all interconnected in the way that the process is the thing that binds them together is fermentation, right? Whether it's kefir, whether it's kimchi, the fermentation binds them together. So when you talk about fermentation in kombucha, Kombucha is a fermented tea. So now tea has no sugar. So what we do is we have regular green tea that you guys drink at home. So we make a green tea with water, etc. We filter out the leaves. We add some sugar and then we add some kombucha culture, okay, and some starter, and we let it ferment. And it takes about 10 days to 14 days to ferment, depending on temperature, depending on the your recipe, etc., etc. And what you end up with is a very healthy, naturally carbonated, slightly tangy, slightly sweet, uh, amazing mix, amazing mixer. Uh, Great beverage to have at any point of the day, any time of the year, called kombucha. Now, kombucha, what happens in kombucha is tea acts as a substrate, and tea acts as a substrate. It's a medium, the green tea, and then the sugar acts as the food for the yeast. Kombucha is made something called SCOBY. SCOBY is symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast. So what happens is symbiotic, mutually beneficial. Uh, and symbiotic colony is because they live together and there are loads of them. So symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast. Yeast ferments the sugar, yes, and produces alcohol and CO2, which gives carbonation. And the alcohol that is produced, now this is what makes kombucha non-alcoholic. The alcohol that is being produced is being eaten up by the bacteria present in the culture. Now these bacteria are very similar to the ones found in apple cider vinegar. Okay, so when you have this, this bacteria, it eats up alcohol and produces acetic acid and other acids like, there are different acids in very small quantities that are very beneficial for you. They are also precursors for other things that are being produced in your body. They help you detox. They help you clean your gut. They help you with releasing certain hormones in your body. They help you in synthesis of certain vitamins like vitamin B1, B2, B4, all of these in your gut, of course, and they help you repopulate your gut. So all of these and everything that's present, these acids, etc., that become interesting. So this is what now you will have. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Sorry, the battery just went charger.
Mr. Vikram, there is some kind of disturbance with the audio also.
Yes.
Network.
Somebody's. Sorry, guys. Thank God I checked. Otherwise, I would have gone off the screen because my battery was low. Okay, so I was saying, yes. So kombucha does all this. Now, how kombucha came into our life is we don't like to drink a lot of alcohol, yes, and not every day at least. And we definitely don't like sodas, colas, juices, etc., etc. So then we are definitely looking for a low sugar beverage, which does not contain any artificial, preservatives and everything. And kombucha fits the bill. That's how kombucha came into our life, and it became a staple into our life, in our parties. Even when we go to our friends, we take kombucha, and even when their kids come over, everyone can have kombucha at home. So that's how kombucha became very important. And similarly, so then we start making ginger ale. Ginger ale is again very good. Ginger ale just needs ginger, sugar, which is again the food for the bacteria and the yeast, and then there is water, and that's about it. And these things have been made throughout generations at home. It's only now that things have been more commercialized for convenience, and you can, of course, go out and buy these things, but you can also make them at home. Of course, that's the whole point, because when it started, the people were still making it at home, right? And people still do make them at home. So, and so little bit of history of kombucha, of course. The legend goes that, somebody, as Chinese drink a lot of green tea. And back in the day, in a bar where they were drinking green tea, they had some sweet green tea, which they forgot in an earthen pot. And, and after a while, a few days, somebody realized that the tea had turned into kombucha. Of course, maybe it was not called kombucha back then, but then they realized that it was sweet tasting, it was slightly fizzy, and, maybe slightly alcoholic at that point on those days, but it was definitely tasty. And so it became popular. That's how it started. And in about, then it went to Japan, where the Japan's king was not well, and Dr. Kombu took it to Japan, and the king of Japan had it, and he had this disease nobody could cure. He started having kombucha, he got better, and kombucha became this elixir of life, as it is called today. In various places, you will hear this. But how kombucha became a part of this bigger thing, is when people started during the World Wars, when the Western European country folks and American folks, when they went for war and they went to Russia and other places, people had been doing kombucha at their home, in small villages and everywhere. And people, when they stayed in the war for so long, they picked up all of these things and they bought them back. So in about 50s and 60s, kombucha became sort of popular among the hippies and everything. And it spread to, in Europe. And in 60s, it went to Switzerland. And eventually it got popular. In about 1995, the first commercial brand of kombucha came up. Before that, it was usually, you give it to friends, you buy it somewhere maybe, but there was no real proper source of getting a good kombucha on the shelf. And in 1995, it came up in US. In India, the kombucha people have been drinking on and off kombucha here and there. The folks who travel or somebody gave it to them. But kombucha really has picked up in about last 5-6 years. Kombucha has really picked up in India. And rightly so, because we all understand how these sodas, colas, juices, etc., which are available in the market, are not really that good, with all the things that they put there to make them shelf stable and tasty and fizzy and all of that. So kombucha really fits the bill there. Then there is one of the most important things that you have is sauerkraut. Now, sauerkraut is a German cousin of kimchi, as I like to call it, and it is essentially just cabbage. Cabbage is around 35 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams. But the moment you ferment it, this value increases by up to 7 times, right? Of that of a lemon and orange, about 10 times that of the initial value. So lemons and oranges, which are supposed to be the best sources of vitamin C, contain about 50 to 60 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams, while sauerkraut may contain up to 350 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams. So that's why sauerkrauts became very, very healthy, became very important as a part of the meals in, if you go to Western Europe, in Georgia, Germany, etc. And they also help you, same as kimchi. When you have a high protein diet, the kimchi and the sauerkrauts can help you digest those high protein diets easily and make it easy for you. Sauerkrauts are also a very good source of vitamin B12, like I said, for kimchi as well, and fermented food in general. But when it comes to vitamin C, they are the best. Okay, and also good fiber that comes with kimchi and sauerkraut, and all of that. Also, all the fermented food also helps you a lot in weight management, because the very first thing about fermentation is that it consumes the sugar during the whole process. So what happens is that anything that you're having would have lesser sugar than a non-fermented version of those things. So if you're drinking iced tea, which may have about 20 grams of sugar per 100 ml, 15-20 grams. A kombucha, which is a fermented iced tea, say, or a cold fermented iced tea, would contain only 3 to 5 grams. Even the more sweet kombuchas would about 5 grams per 100 ml. which is nothing. And how fermented food helps is, like I said, fermentation produces all these healthy acids, enzymes, etc. One of them being acetic acid or vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is really, really popular. Again, a ferment, which is really popular, for curbing your cravings and also improving your, reducing your blood sugar spike, etc. Kombucha also has a lot of this vinegar or acetic acid as a byproduct of fermentation. That's what gives kombucha its distinct uh, vinegary or a slightly tarty flavor. And that helps you regulate your blood sugar. So even if there is some sugar in kombucha, it is still better managed because it comes with all these healthy acids and enzymes than just the calories and no acids, right? So that's why fermentation is really, really important. Now they've also understood that fermentation can help you with mental health, removing brain fog, etc. And there are a lot of studies regarding done that. But again, we have to remember that big pharma has a lot of problem with this. So sometimes these studies don't become so popular. But if you read enough, you will find out that there are a lot of cases, real life studies, real life cases where people have really benefited from fermented food in general, right? So every country in this world has fermentation in one way or the other. Now, what makes these ferments different is the ingredients. Because in India, you will have carrots, but in Germany or in colder countries, you will not have so many fruits and vegetables. What they usually have is cabbage. And, so they will ferment cabbage. And there are some interesting things. So people used to suffer from scurvy when they used to go on the sea back in the 1600s and 1700s. But in 1700, Captain Cook carried a lot of sauerkraut on his ship. And of course, people consumed the sauerkraut on the ship, and not a single person died of scurvy or that sort of malnutrition or, any of those diseases that people used to die of. And that made this Captain Cook very, very popular. If any of you have read about Captain Cook in general, you've heard of him, it is because of sauerkraut that he became so popular, because he was the first captain in the history who came back with his entire crew, the most of it at least, without losing someone to disease or something like that. And so how impactful fermented food can be. Coffee beans are also fermented, by the way. Tea is also fermented, by the way. Now, I'm not talking about kombucha, just the regular tea that you drink is also fermented. The coffee beans are definitely fermented for a day or two. So fermentation does a lot of things. It improves flavor. Sometimes it also makes things that are inedible, makes them edible. So do you know about why we soak the lentils, etc.? That's also a form of fermentation. When you soak them in water, you're basically breaking down the phytic acids, etc., and making them easier to digest, right? And that's exactly what fermentation is all about, making it easier for you to digest, helping your digestion system. I've had a lot of times myself personally, when I've had like heavy meals or I've gone out with a friend and we've had some things that in general I would rather avoid. But when I came back home and I felt a little heavy and not so great, I had half a bottle of kombucha perhaps, and I was sleeping like a baby in the next 10 minutes because my stomach was all better then. So that sort of thing we've experienced personally as well, and that's something that you can do as well. Now, if you want to do beverages, of course, I understand that some of these beverages are best served cold. So now the winters are approaching and you may not be able to do that. But in that case, things like kanji, things like fermented vegetables like sauerkraut, kimchi, they become very, very important because you can use them in your everyday meals without having to worry about the cold factor, etc., etc. A very important thing that you must remember is that when you are choosing fermented food, like I've mentioned before in this particular session only, that they must be raw and unpasteurized. Now, when I say raw and unpasteurized, what do I mean by that? So when you heat milk and you cool it down and you put it in the refrigerator, that's pasteurization. You're trying to kill all the bacteria, etc., that would sort of cause the milk to go bad, right? The milk would split otherwise if you did not do that. Similarly, when you have kombuchas and all that, we've been talking about all these bacteria that are present, which help you ferment, etc., etc. But they will continue, like yogurt, right? When you make yogurt, you need about 6 to 8 hours of good warm temperature, and your yogurt is set. But if you leave it outside for too long, it gets sour, and it smells funky. And then you have to make chaach. You just can't make a lot of things. Then you have to do other preparations like curry, khatta, and all of that. So similar things happen to kombucha as well. If you were to leave it, outside, or any beverage for that matter, which has sugar in it, will continue to ferment and will get fizzier, tartier, and may become very acidic and not so easy to have, and whatever. It will spoil the fun of it. And that is why what people do is they either filter it or they use sodium benzoate and other preservatives to sort of kill all the bacteria that are present, so that the beverage does not ferment and stays wherever it is. But in that process, you're killing all the bacteria, all the good stuff that is present in the ferment. And that is why it is essential that we do unpasteurized raw stuff. The most important thing about all these ferments would be to make sure that it is hygienic, right? So when you do it at home, you don't have to, go crazy with sterilization, etc., etc. But if you maintain basic hygiene protocol, like washing your hands with soap and the running water for some time, washing all your utensils, your mats, your knives, everything that is being used there. If you use them properly with clean hands, then that's the least amount of hygiene that you would want. The more careful you are, the better chances we have that you will have a good ferment without anything harmful. Now, we can of course keep talking about ferments endlessly, about different ferments, but how do you know if your ferment has gone bad? That is a very important question that we get asked a lot as well. And so I have a very simple theory in it. Whether you make it at home, anywhere you are, it's a very simple theory. You can test it. As long as there is, people say that, oh, is this mold? Is this eatable? There's some white stuff on my kimchi or my sauerkraut. Don't have to worry about it. If it is not furry, if it has like furry structure, if it's fuzzy, furry, and green, black, gray, maybe off-white in color, then it's gone bad. That's something that you should discard. Okay. If it does not smell okay, right? Kimchi smells like a fart. Okay. Kimchi smells like a fart. If your kimchi is, if it's not tangy, if it's not pungent, if it's not spicy, it's not kimchi. Okay. It will smell like a fart. But apart from that necessary smell that is associated with kimchi, if there is something off about the kimchi, if you know what a good kimchi is decently, if you start eating kimchi, you will know when it's gone off. Or if it tastes funny, it has to be pungent. It will be tangy. It will be spicy. But you would know if you eat kimchi, you would know that this kimchi is gone bad. Also, the fermented food, the whole point is preservation. So it is not easy to spoil these ferments if they're done properly. But you just have to be vigilant. People have been consuming them for thousands and thousands of years. So it's not a problem. You just have to be vigilant about your ferment that you make them at home. Okay. I think we've talked about ferments. We've talked about the history of fermentation. We've talked about, so like I keep going back to alcohol, and I don't want to promote alcohol in any way. Alcohol can be very disastrous if consumed without control, of course, as we all know. But there are trace amounts of alcohol present in kombucha and in other ferments. And actually, they're very good for your body, because when the alcohol percentage of 0.1, 0.2% is present in your food or your beverage, when you eat that, it prevents the growth of bad bacteria or pathogens in your gut lining, and it actually protects your gut lining from a lot of these things, right? So don't worry about the alcohol bit. And of course, alcohol help people be more social. So fermentation, of course, was very, very healthy. Even today, when you make a tepache or something, if you put a lot of sugar, there might be some trace amount of alcohol, but the healthier part of the fermentation outweighs those trace amounts of alcohol, and it is not going to harm you in any way. So please remember that. I understand a lot of people have that apprehension about alcohol when it comes to fermentation, but you would know if it's alcoholic, right? For kombuchas, for example, you would have to drink like, I don't know, 10, 20 liters of kombucha just to figure out if there is any any alcohol. And by then, if you've had 10 liters of kombucha, your worry would not be alcohol. Your worry would be the toilet, right? So do not worry about alcohol and all that. Just enjoy your ferments. Like they say in Hindi, ati sarvatra varjate, meaning moderation is the key. Extremes in any way is can be harmful. That's about that, right? So today, quickly, I think I'm going to move on to showing you how to make some ferments. I'm going to make some fermented veggies. Very, very easy to make. I'm going to show you how I do the, some basic calculation you have to remember. So do we understand what percentage of brine means? That's a very important thing that you must learn. Percentage of brine means how much salt is present in a 100 ml of water, for example. So let's say if you have 100 ml of water and you put 5 grams salt in it, that would make a 5% brine, roughly. Okay. Or if you have, say, if you have 100 ml of water and if you add 2 grams of salt, that's a 2% brine. If I add 10%, 10 grams salt in 100 ml water or 100 gram water, that becomes a 10% this thing, roughly. So in 100, so, okay, sorry, I'm going to repeat that. Brine is a solution of mixture of salt and water. That is brine. Now, if I give you 100 gram or 100 ml of brine, and if I say that it is a 5% brine, meaning that this 100 ml contains 5 grams of salt. If I said that this is a 2% brine, that means it is in this particular thing, out of 100 grams, there would be 2 grams of salt. For every 100 grams of this portion, there will be 2 grams of salt and 98 grams of water. This is the absolute right way of understanding. But if you find maths to be a little too complicated, then the easiest way is for 100 ml of water, how much salt are we adding, right? So in case of brine, in case of fermented vegetables, we use about 3% to 4% brine. Okay. Now, what happens is salt actually saline water, or salt water. When you get bruised or you have a you have a laceration or something, and they will clean it with saline water. When you get a burn, they clean it with saline water. Why they do it is because it's a disinfectant of sorts, right? And the same thing happens in fermentation as well. So it prevents pathogens from growing and rotting the carrots, etc., and gives the right thing. So when we were talking about fermentation, I also had mentioned about dehydration, about pickling, and about salting. In salting, drying, and smoking, you are removing the moisture. Okay, you are removing the moisture because moisture hota hai, then it catches yeast, it catches fungus, it catches mold, and it can go bad, right? Again, that same moisture and humidity also gives you tempeh and all that, but it's a controlled environment, and it's a controlled species of the fungus that you're using. But if you let it outside, carrot contains water, all vegetables contain water, and they will start rotting, right? But when you remove the water and you dry them, they do not go bad because there is no moisture, so the bacteria, etc., growth is not there. Bacteria, yeast, fungus growth is not there. In case of fermentation, you need the bacteria to thrive, the good bacteria. So you give them a condition in which the good bacteria will thrive, which is the saline environment in case of fermented veggies. Okay. So now I'm going to quickly show you how to make fermented veggies. I've got the carrots peeled and ready. I'm just going to wash my hands quickly with some soap and show you how to do this.
If anyone has any questions, I request them to either put it in the chat box or you can ask directly after Mr. Vikram completes his demonstration.
I have a question on kimchi.
Yes, sir. Please continue.
Yeah, I bought commercially available kimchi, one bottle, and used it, and I had immediate histamine reaction, blisters developed in my mouth on the and on the tongue. Is it been normal to have high histamines, kimchi? People who are histamine sensitive should avoid them?
Sir, actually, if you have sensitivity of any vegetable, or if you have a history of histamine reactions, then it is always better to go slow, take a very small amount and see whether your body is able to tolerate it or not. That is one thing. Second thing is, whenever you buy kimchi or any fermented food from outside, it is always better to check the label and see what other additives are being added. Because sometimes, it may not be the actual fermented one. They would have added just vinegar to uh, preserve a vegetable. It may not be an original kimchi. So, that also makes a lot of difference. So please check the ingredients, see what are the additional additives added to the product, and then take a call whether to go ahead with the product or not.
Okay.
So
Is
usually what
vinegar
happens, if I
not-
get the question correctly, sorry, if I get the question correctly, Rohini was answering, right? So yes, so the most important thing is people, I go to a lot, we sell kimchi, of course, right? And I go to a lot of restaurants. And I'm telling you, this is like true story. I have gone to a lot of restaurants who say, they make authentic Korean food and they make authentic this food and Southeast Asian food, etc. And you ask them, oh, you make kimchi? Bola, yeah, we make our own kimchi. And like, oh, wow. So you must be making a lot of kimchi every day, and that, you need space, and Bombay real estate is expensive. And so in Bangalore, I'm assuming. So they say, yeah, we make it, 1 day or 2 day before. I'm like, but kimchis are supposed to be done for months and months. But no, but we make some, we cut the salad, we cut the cabbage, we add some spices, we add some vinegar, and we let it there for 1 day, and then we serve it. So people, they think that this kimchi is very crunchy, very, very crunchy, and and this and tangy, and vinegary and all that, and it's very nice. What they fail to, and when they actually have real kimchi, they're like, oh, this kimchi has gone bad, it is smelling so bad, etc., etc. What they do not understand is that a lot of these commercial kimchis, etc., are made or are either not fermented properly, and a lot of times they would have hidden ingredients, or they would have vinegar, etc., etc., which would give you that taste and flavor of that acidity, etc., but it will not have those probiotics that you're actually aiming for. The goodness will not be there. There would be, of course, cabbage. There would be, of course, some other things that kimchi contains, but not a proper, true, authentic kimchi. Okay. Coming back now, guys, for making fermented veggies at home. Okay. I had carrots at home today. So this is what we're going to use. These are the regular carrots that you get mostly everywhere. I would have preferred red carrots. It's winter time, so you will start now getting red carrots. They are tastier because they are a little bit sweeter, so it's very nice. It's very simple to make something like this. Mama, थोड़े वो spices भी ला दो ना. वो साबुत धनिया और सरसों थोड़ा सा ये सब भी ला दो. एक मिर्ची, एक तेज पत्ता उसको दे दो. So what we do is we start by taking these. And I have this 500-gram jar. You can have a bigger jar also. You can have a 1 liter jar, 2 liter jar, whatever you have available. And I always recommend people to use only stainless steel or glass. The best is glass to ferment at home. Why? Because when you have glass, you can actually see what's going on inside the bottle. If it's plastic, if it's opaque, you really can't see what's happening. And every time you have to check it, you have to open the cover and see it. And you don't want to do it all the time, right? So this is something that I had at home. It's nice, clean, washed. Now I have these carrots. Now you can ferment it. You can either cut them, chop, like round slices. You can have them and you can put them together. But I usually do long sticks, because they're easy to have in salad. And they're also easy to have as snacks, with like hummus, or like a yogurt dip or something like that. Also, if you must, the size is totally up to you, but I always recommend not to cut them too thin, because carrot is still okay because it's a hard vegetable. But if it's a regular vegetable, what can happen is it can become very soggy and mushy, and you don't want something like that. So if it was an apple or a pineapple or a potato, it might get very soggy, So we were talking about how different countries have different ferments, and one of the easiest way to explain to you is alcohol again. Sorry, but say Russia makes vodka with potatoes, right? And tequila is made with agave, which is in Mexico, and whiskey, all of that is done with grains. Yeah, that is again, the countries which grow, something like that. And cabbage is very popular in Germany, so they make kimchi, etc. And the ferments go like that. Essentially, that's the idea, right? If you go to Goa, they make kaju feni and coconut feni, etc., etc. If you go to wine growing countries and wine growing areas like California, Chile, Nashik, you will have a lot of wine because they have a lot of grapes. Yeah. If you go to the mountains, you will also have a lot of apple cider and apple wine and plum wine and all of those things, simply because those are the things that are available locally and have been fermented for a very long time. You can remove the center stem if you like, but I leave them as is because I like to consume the whole thing. When it comes to health, why leave out the healthy bits?
Mr. Vikram, by the time you do the preparations, could we quickly show the video because the live stream started a little bit later. So I'll quickly stream the video. And there's also a question from one of our participants that do the skin of the carrots need to be peeled before washing, and do we need to sun dry them, the carrots?
No. So, okay. So like I said, always remember to wash your vegetables before cutting them, because that some vitamins are water soluble and some vitamins are fat soluble, right? So if you peel your vegetables or you cut your vegetables and then you wash them, then you are at risk of losing some of these vitamins, etc. So I would always recommend wash your carrots, your ginger, anything that grows under the surface or very close to the surface of the earth very, very nicely, very thoroughly, and only then use it. But always remove the outer skin if you want to. You can also leave the skin on. See, that's a personal choice. I am removing them because, skin could be dirty, skin could have something on it. Peeling it, just make sure that it's very, very nice and clean and hygienic. But if you're very sure of the quality of the carrot that you have, and it's very farm fresh and very nice, please feel free to add the peel as well. It gives a lot of flavor. Just make sure it's clean. That's the most important thing. Now, guys, I also have here some spices. If you want to see, I have some chili pepper. I have some chilies, sorry, red chilies. I have some dhania, coriander seeds. I have some mustard. I have some mustard in this, right? And of course, we will have some salt. You can add ginger, you can add whatever you want in your ferment for taste. But the most important thing remains water, salt, and carrots. Now, this is a 500-gram jar, right? So if I wanted to make a 3% brine, if I wanted to make a 3% brine in this, how much salt would we have to put? Anybody? Can somebody help me? How much salt do I need to put? Anybody?
3 grams in 100 ml.
Ma'am, it's a 500-gram jar. And
Yeah,
if I
so
want
100
to,
ml.
No, 15 grams.
15 grams. Correct answer. Sir, this is your carrots. Whenever you come to Bombay, I'll give them to you. Okay. Now, I only had these many carrots, so I've had this. Just stuff them inside. Okay. Now, what do we do is, you can also cut them to size if you like. That's perfectly all right. I'm going to take some mustard seeds. I'm going to take some coriander seeds. Put them in. I'm going to put a chili. Yes, whole chili. I'm going to put a piece of ginger, which is cleaned. It is washed already properly. I'm just going to make sure there is nothing dirty on the skin. I'm going to chop it up slowly and fine. Just the smaller chunks. Can you guys see? Drop them all in and I'll pour water. Oh, sorry, salt, 15 grams salt. Yes, I have this. This is a 5-gram scoop, roughly. So I'm going to put about.
So Vikram, I have a question.
Yes.
It is not required to dissolve the salt first in the water and then pour, is it?
Once you pour water, you will dissolve it. There is no other way to do it, right? We'll give it a shake. So now I'm going to top it up with water. I will try and fill it as much as possible so that my vegetables are completely submerged. Yes. I'm going to put the cap back on. And I'm going to give it a nice shake.
Is it required to boil and cool the water, or just direct filter water will do?
Good question. Yeah, that's a good question. In general, if you are getting a supply from the corporation or water supply, that is government water supply, it can contain chlorine. And if you have high content of chlorine, then what can happen is that it can actually be like a antibacterial this thing. So it might not be able to ferment what is happening. So what I would recommend is, if you boil the water once and you boil it for some time and then you let it cool down, all the chlorine will evaporate. And what you're left with is clean water. Okay. So you can also use that. You can also do RO water. You can also do filtered water. Yeah. As long as there is there's not a lot of chlorine, you should be in general fine with the whole thing. So yeah. But yes, as a good practice, like it was pointed out, boiling water for some time and cooling it down would be good, just to be on the safer side. For the sake of demonstration, now this is it. Now, what happens is the carrots have some sugar, right? And when it starts fermenting, it will take about 3-4 days before it settles down. What happens is when the fermentation kicks in, there's a lot of CO2 being produced. And the CO2 that is being produced will create a lot of pressure. In case of this carrot, it will not be a lot that it can break the jar. But in case of kombucha, ginger beer, if you put it in a glass bottle and if you put a cap on it, and there is no way for the gas to escape, it can actually become a lot of pressure. I'm sure you would have seen videos of kombucha bottles opening up like champagne and blasting, etc., etc. That can happen. So you have to be careful. Okay. But this is going to be okay because there is going to be very little sugar in this whole thing. So there's not a lot of gas. There would be significant amount of gas, but not enough to sort of break this thing in general, right? And ideally, what you could do is it would take about a week to 2 weeks to be properly fermented. Meanwhile, what you can do is so when you have this, look at this carefully. Yeah, this is called burping. What they do is you open the jar and then you put it back. That's it. You loosen the cap and then you put it back. What happens is any excess gas pressure that is available would be released. And you maybe need to do it maybe 1 or 2 days when you start. Once a day is enough. And after you'll see that the carbonation will not be as much. So you're good. And the flavor and everything will come in about a week to 2 weeks. You can always try it and see what you like. If you like it more tarty, if you make it like more fermented, you can leave it longer. But if you're okay, at whatever stage you're okay, just refrigerate the whole thing. And this should last in your refrigerator for good 2-3 months, 6 months, as long as, it should be fine, depending on how you're making it, but it should be fine. As long as you refrigerate and you ferment it properly, the brine is going to preserve the ferment. Over time, of course, the carrots will get softer and bendier, but that's okay. That's just a part of the fermentation. Okay. Any questions about this? Or should we keep them all for the question answer session?
There have been a few more questions. We can take all of them together. Please
Okay.
post all the questions on the chat box.
Okay. So this is that. Now you don't have to refrigerate it right now. You have to leave it out at ambient temperature. So ambient temperature being around 25-30 degrees for good fermentation. If you are in a cold temperature, say north of India at this point of time or any hill station, this will take significantly longer and you must keep it somewhere a little warmer in your house, right? So ideally the temperature should be around 20-30 degrees would be ideal. Up to 40 degrees is it's okay. But 30 degrees plus minus 5 is perfect, no problem. Anything less than 20 would increase the timeline of when you're making this. Okay. So now we are going to make tepache. So pineapple, okay. Unfortunately, we ran out of pineapples and we have this raw pineapple. Okay? It's not ripe yet, but still I'm going to show exactly how you go about it. The rest remains the same. Of course, you should use a ripe pineapple for something like this because a ripe pineapple will be tastier, will be sweeter, and the beverage is going to be amazing, right? But I'm going to show you nevertheless. I'm just going to give this a really nice wash. Like I said, fruits and vegetables should be washed really nicely to make sure that it is free of any pathogens, etc., as much as possible. So I'm going to go, give me a minute. I'm going to give it a very nice, thorough wash before I put it in before start chopping it. So hey guys, I'm back. So for this, I'll tell you a brief history of tepache. So in tepache, what happens is tepache used to be made with the peels of pineapple. As we know, peels of half the pineapple is peels. What they used to do is eat the flesh, and the peels also contain a lot of enzymes, etc. So what they would do is they would use the peels, add some sugar, cottage sugar, yeah, and they would add water and they would let it ferment. And this ferments very quickly, and the drink is ready in a day or two. Okay, and it can also turn very sour very fast. So you have to be really careful. Okay, I have a big glass jar here. Usually, depending on how much pineapple you're using at home for different things, you can have a lot of peel. But in general, we do not consume so much pineapple. So if I have to make tepache, I use entire thing, not just the peels, but everything, because there will be a lot of sugar in the flesh, and that's great. Also, the flesh will also give it a lot of flavor. So we are good with that. Then I have some khansari sugar. We have some khansari sugar here. Khansari is the cottage sugar. Okay. So remove the head. Okay. You can use the head to grow another pineapple. So I will leave it up to you guys. It takes a lot of time to grow a pineapple. So okay, you have to be careful if there is any part of your pineapple that is not good. Please remember to remove it. I see a little part of my pineapple is not so great. I'm going to remove it. You know, Pipache is one of the most sustainable ferments to make because people eat pineapple and the peel goes into the waste. Now these people are also making, leather, vegan leather out of pineapple peel, etc. But Pipache is a very healthy alternative to make at home. Yeah, I'm going to try this pineapple to see how sweet is it. It's actually sweet. It's not very ripe, but still very sweet. So you see these peels, we're going to cut them in smaller pieces still. And we can start. The jar is already nice and clean. So I'm going to start putting whatever the peels and scrapes are, I'm going to put them in. And you see that I've, peeled the pineapple in a very crude manner because I do not care if there is flesh on the peel. I want some flesh on the peel because that would all the sugar that the bacteria and the yeast will consume. So we are good. The pineapple is really sweet. Of course, the center, etc., and some parts, I can't resist but have some. Okay, guys. Now I'm going to put salt. Wait, sorry, sugar. I have to clean my hands. Okay. So for the Apache, it's a 3-liter jar. I would put 60 grams of sugar for every liter, about 60 grams. About 180 grams of sugar is what I'm going to put. So roughly, when fermenting, always a good idea to use a small kitchen scale when you have it. That's why I'm giving you numbers, 60 grams per 100 ml. I'm going to roughly put about 180 grams because it's a 3-liter jar. I'm going to roughly put about 180 grams of sugar. So additionally, in my tepache, I will put 1 chili. It gives a very nice flavor. And I'm going to put ginger. What you could put is cloves, cinnamon. Cinnamon goes really well. Really helpful as well. Sugar, cinnamon, they say that helps to regulate your blood sugar. That's a good spice to have. Spices have these trace minerals, etc. And they have these nutrients which really make the game. They have a lot of antioxidants in different. Ginger has gingerol 6. Pineapple has bromelain. My dog wants to go for a walk. So quickly, we'll wrap it up. So now I've added everything here. I'm going to add water. पानी और लगेगा. Do not fill this to the brim for a very simple reason. If you fill it to the brim, there is no, this ferments very quickly, and there is a lot of sugar from the pineapple and from what we've added, and it is going to be okay. So I filled it up. All I need to do is now, guys, this ferments very quickly. Okay, this ferments very quickly. So you have to remember to burp it every couple of hours. Okay, every couple of hours you must twist the cap and then put it back. You don't have to remove the cap even. Just twist the cap and put it back. And you will also see a lot of foam rising on the top. You can remove the foam if you like. Put the cap back, let it ferment. Now, how do you know if your tepache is ready? Now, this has a lot of sugar, so of course, it's going to be, you can try it. The best way to know if you're doing the ferment correct is try it now. It's very sweet. And when you try it after, say, 12 hours or tomorrow, it would have turned sour and it would have a lot of bubbles rising all the way from here, and you will see the bubbles everywhere. I was reading a question, sorry. So you will see bubbles, etc. You can't miss it. It will ferment. When it ferments, and remember to burp it every couple of hours for the first, first few times. Leave it overnight. Next day, open the cap slowly, remove the pressure, let it settle down. Yes, and try it. And if it's little sweet, little sour, that's the right spot to be in. Then you can filter all of this, sieve it, and put it in different bottles, because this is 3 liters, so you would need a few bottles. Remove the pulp. Pulp is very good for manure, for your plants, for composting, because it's fermented, it's broken down, it's really good. Yeah. And the rest of the liquid, it's going to be a little tarty, a little sweet, a little pineapple-y, gingery. You will use that, you will fill it up in bottles, and you can keep it in the, you can leave it out for a few hours and then refrigerate it. That will give it some time to carbonate, and then you can refrigerate it and you can consume it for you can consume it, because the acid, the vinegary part, the sourness, that is the acid that will preserve your ferment. One important thing that I think I did not mention, I did not want to talk a lot of science here, but one of the important things is pH. Now people will ask, Vikram, why does fermentation, how do you know fermentation is happening or whatever? Water has the pH of 7. Anything less than 7 is acidic, more than 7 is alkaline. Water we drink from the tap is usually around 6, 7, 8 pH, in that range. Okay. Depending on where the water source is and what are the minerals available, etc., etc. But once the pH drops below 4, the pathogens find it very difficult to grow in it. Okay? The pathogens find it very difficult to grow in it. And the lemon, for example, has a pH of about 2.5, 2.3, right? Something like that. And you can taste the lemon, right? It's citrusy, it's very lemony, very, very sour. So that's the pH then. This ideally would have a pH of around 3, 3.2, something like that, right? So it's acidic, but it's not those kind of acids like sulfuric acid and HCl. These are good, healthy organic acids, which are also available in your body in different ways and different places. Okay. So you can keep them in the refrigerator and use them. Over time, they might get fizzier, even in the refrigerator. So be very careful when you're fermenting. Once you get a hang of it, you will have to do it a few times. You'll have to fail a few times. You will have to spill a few bottles before you get a hang of it. And that's very normal. That's everybody's journey. But that's about it. So that's what you do. And then you enjoy your bromelain, gingerol, and probiotic-filled tepache. Okay. One of the most sustainable ferments, I might add. So that brings us to the end of the session. Please let me know what your questions are.
I have seen on YouTube videos about making sauerkraut. They always seem to be adding vinegar. You are saying we should not add.
So when you ferment, the acidity will come on its own. You do not need to add vinegar. People who add vinegar are not really fermenting it. They're pickling it. There is a difference between pickling and fermenting. Fermenting is when you want these bacteria to act and they will change the flavor. They will bring umami. They will bring this preservation and everything. When you add vinegar, vinegar is also very low pH already. So you're dropping the pH in order to ferment it. But what happens is nothing really ferments when you add vinegar. Okay? Nothing will ferment. So it will taste sour and all that, but it will not be probiotic as such. They might have some bacteria, some whatever, but not like a proper sauerkraut, which has no vinegar.
So if we don't add vinegar, we should not have high histamines in sauerkraut. Am I right?
Come again?
Because last time I asked a question about histamines. Apparently, sauerkraut contains high histamines. People who are sensitive to histamine should not consume them. But I want to consume for high vitamin C. So what is the solution?
Okay. So I would always recommend start a small quantity and see how your body is responding. Okay? Because if you're having vitamin C and probiotics, then there is no space for vinegar. Are they adding vinegar when they are starting the ferment, or they are adding the vinegar towards the end of the ferment?
Towards the beginning.
So if you add vinegar, how is it going to ferment? Vinegar is used for pickling in general. Unless it's a raw vinegar, which has, something like an apple cider vinegar with mother and everything in it. So it has a lot of live bacteria. It is very acidic. But when you say vinegar, a vinegar is something that is devoid of all probiotics, etc., etc. It's just acetic acid.
Okay. So whatever you showed for kimchi, same procedure is applicable for sauerkraut also?
What is valid for sauerkraut also?
The recipe you have shown for kimchi, is it valid for sauerkraut also?
Yes, pretty much. Yes.
Except that we use cabbage there.
Percentage also almost remains around 2 to 3%, depending on where you're living, what your style is, etc. Try 3 is okay. 3 is good. Yes, 3% brine is perfect. So yeah, go for it. Kimchi, sauerkraut, like I said, they are cousins. Yeah, from different regions. just because Korea gets a lot more vegetables and etc. etc. They have kimchi, and in Germany etc. cold winters they don't get these vegetables. They make it sauerkraut.
Thank you.
For sauerkraut, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
For sauerkraut, we use cabbage and salt plus water. We keep it
So
for
I can't
2
hear
days.
you. Can you be a little louder, please?
For sauerkraut, we put cabbage and water plus salt, right?
Sir, in sauerkraut, you will basically put cabbage and salt. The cabbage will release water. And in general, you should, if it's a fresh cabbage, you should not need any external water in general. That's my experience so far. But if there is very little water, you want to use a little bit of water just to make sure that your cabbage is completely submerged underwater.
At the beginning of your session, you told about kombucha. At the beginning of your session, you told about kombucha. For kombucha, you add green tea and another recipe ingredient is
Green tea, water, sugar, and kombucha culture.
where do you find kombucha culture, or we should buy from you?
So you can also buy from us. We don't do it commercially at this point, but we do. If somebody attends the session and they want the culture, etc., etc., we can send you a small, tea, sugar, culture, etc., etc. We can definitely send it to you. You can also buy it online. But I feel that when you buy it online from a lot of these vendors, they are only making it to create more SCOBY and culture and just sell it. Whereas when you are buying it from somebody who makes kombucha in general, the efficacy or the SCOBY is much more strong. They are more adapted.
How can we buy from you? In your website, they are showing only kombucha products, not the that.
That's what I said. We don't sell it commercially. If you want, you can reach out to us separately on WhatsApp or Instagram. I'll be more than happy to hook you up with some.
Thank you.
I have one more question. Should the jar be closed airtight? Air should not be present inside the jar?
Yes. So okay. So I'll quickly add this. There are different kinds of fermentation processes depending. 1 second. Yes, Mommy. So there are different fermentation processes that happen. One of the fermentation process could be aerobic or anaerobic, meaning you allow air or you don't allow air. So in case of idli batter, or in case of dosa, in case of kombucha, you allow air. In case of sauerkraut, in case of these fermented vegetables, tepache, ginger beer, you do not allow access to air during the fermentation period. Because if it's in continuous contact with air, there is a high chance of the sourness changes, the whole chemistry changes, and also chances of this getting yeast, etc., moldy, etc., very quickly. So you have to be careful.
Thanks.
Hello, sir.
Haji. Hi.
Instead of carrot, can we use other vegetables like
Yes.
cucumber, beetroot?
Yes,
Exactly
yes,
like detox
100%.
drink only, sir.
100%. I use carrot because I had only carrot at home. I was told that there is also some cauliflower and then there is some other vegetables. But apparently, when I started the session, I was informed that there was no other vegetables. I was misspoken.
Okay.
So you can use cauliflower. You can use, even what is it called? Ivy gourd, and you can use other vegetables. No problem. But remember, if you're using, say, for example, cucumber. If you cut the cucumber is very soft from the inside. When you ferment it, it will become very gooey, mushy.
Okay.
So what you want to do is you want to use gherkins, smaller, firmer cucumbers for fermentation. And do not cut it into slices. Maybe just cut one top and just bottom of it and let it ferment. And don't ferment it too much.
Okay, sir. Thank you. And one more thing. Instead of pineapple, can you use apple and other fruits?
So then it's not a tepache, it's a fruit soda. And it's a very similar recipe. but you can definitely ferment that as well. Fruit sodas are different. Tepache is very specifically used for peels. Yes.
Okay. Best
And
time
fruit
to
soda.
have this drink, sir?
Sorry.
Best time. Best time to have this drink.
Anna,
Is it
whatever
empty
you feel
stomach?
whenever you feel your body is ready for it and your body wants one, you give it to it. Because I've realized
Okay.
in my 6-7 years of the journey of fermentation and health and wellness, and as I'm aging, I've understood one thing, that if you force your body to do something, right?
Okay.
And if it's too stressful for you, yes, some things that a new habit is always difficult, and change is always resisted. But if you're doing it, if it's too uncomfortable for you, maybe you should do it less, or maybe you should ease into it. Decrease the intensity of the whole thing.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
No problem. More questions, guys?
Diksha, can we read out the questions in the chat box too?
Yes.
Yes.
I
Hello.
think
Hello.
yeah, this. Yes.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah. You're
Yeah,
audible. Please tell.
whenever I consume these fermented drinks, I feel heartburn and very acidic. Why is this?
Sorry, I missed the question. Can you be a little louder? Maybe Diksha, can you get those questions?
Yeah, sure. So she was asking, please drop the question on the chat box. That would really help us. She was asking she get a lot of bloating or acidity after having probiotic drinks. And yeah.
Okay, so that is something that we've heard before as well. Sorry, 1 second.
Please ask the questions one by one. Let Mr. Vikram answer the first question, and then we'll move on to the next.
Okay, so I've heard a lot of times that people get bloating from getting all of this. What I've also realized is that if you give yourself a little time, this will subside. Now you get this problem with bloating, acidity, etc., bloating, etc., because either your ferments are having too much sugar, or you are consuming too much sugar, and all these bacteria and yeast that are entering your body now is fermenting the rest of the food that is available in your gut. Okay. But in general, from other clients that we've learned, that if you give it a little while, so instead of drinking a 300 ml bottle of kombucha, maybe drink only 100 ml kombucha and do it for a little while, the bloating, etc., goes away. Okay. And you can also see that if it's a particular ferment that is harming you and not nothing else. I mean, it could be, say, pineapple may not be working for you, but say fermented carrot might be really great for you, right? So maybe kombucha is not working for you, but kefir is really good for you, or kvass is good for you, So maybe give other fermented food a chance and don't give up on them. Just reduce the intensity, like I said.
There have been more questions like in case of IBD, IBS cases, how do they take these?
In which cases? Sorry.
In irritable bowel syndrome, in irritable
Okay. Yeah.
inflammatory bowel
So
disease.
IBS, GERDs, if you have ulcers in your stomach, etc., all those cases, you should go for easier ferments, say like a beet kanji, and do very small quantities to begin with, and give your body a break. Okay, because most of the times what I have seen is, and Rohini ma'am can also answer this question, maybe add on to it later, that people continue to eat a lot of sensitive food while they have this condition without realizing that they're having such inflammatory food. So they think that, I can have all of this and I can drink a kombucha and it will heal me, or if I do this, it will heal me. Oh, I don't consume any sugar, but there is sugar in everything. There is sugar in rice, there is sugar in meat, there is sugar in milk. What is your irritant? And how are you going to heal? That is what Bug Speak is all about. That's what they're trying to do. Fermented food की जहां तक बात आती है, and I get some water. Samara, Ani. So when it comes to fermented food, I think you just have to ease up a bit and have zero sugar ferments like kefir, like wheat kvass, maybe sauerkraut, because kimchi has spices, so it can be a little discomforting at times. But sauerkraut, maybe add little quantities here and there and see how it goes. I hope that answers the question.
Rohini ma'am, if you have any points to share to that, please feel free to do that.
Yeah, I completely agree with Vikram, whatever he mentioned. I do understand all these fermented products are very good for health, and whatever information has been shared by Vikram, it is very true. Only thing is, if you are doing it for the first time, please remember you are adding new bacteria to your gut. So definitely it takes time for the gut to get used to the new entry, and take it little smaller quantity initially and slowly build up depending on your tolerance. And if you are on any particular medication, or if you are already suffering from any disease, please keep your doctor or your nutritionist in the loop before starting any of these new products. That should be helpful.
I have a question here. Can cruciferous fermented foods be consumed by thyroid patients? Ma'am or sir, how many, sorry, Jayashri, so ma'am, how much cruciferous vegetable are you going to have? How much kimchi can you have in a day? 10, 20 grams, 30 grams is not going to create a problem. When they talk about cruciferous foods, they talk about maybe 100, 200 grams, maybe in a salad and all of that. When you're fermenting it, you're anyways changing the whole, the whole process. The food is going to interact with your body now, because the food is not the same as cabbage. It's a fermented cabbage. It's a totally different product now.
Okay, thank you. Can a diabetic patient consume kombucha?
Yes, my dad is a diabetic. I don't know about other people, but my dad is a diabetic and he can consume kombucha safely. Just make sure that your kombucha, your palate will tell you if it's very sweet. Please do not consume a kombucha which is sugared up. Please do not consume a kombucha which has artificial sweeteners and preservatives, right? And see if you can get a low sugar kombucha. At MAVI's, we do low sugar kombucha, especially for diabetic people. So you can definitely have some and consume kombucha, regular kombucha also you can consume. See if you can get like, consume a smaller portion, drink the rest later, see how your body is responding, if you're getting an insulin spike or whatever. And in general, you should be fine with like a bottle, it should be okay. Again, depending on your insulin sensitivity.
Yeah, I would like to add one more thing here. Whenever you are having these kombuchas and all, please include more diversity with respect to the fermented foods. It's not like you need to have kombucha on a everyday, basis. You can have smaller quantities, 2 to 3 times a week, and in place you can add other fermented vegetables like what Vikram had shown. So that way, diversity will not only improve your gut bacteria, at the same time, you are also ensuring that you are not going overboard, taking one particular thing in a larger quantity. So that regulation would be there. And considering the earlier question about the goitrogen, fermentation process actually reduces the goitrogenic compounds in these crucifers. So in that sense, you don't have to worry too much about any of these crucifers causing, imbalance in your thyroid. Okay, so a smaller amount, maybe even a teaspoon of kimchi added to your salad would be good enough to add the beneficial bacteria without worrying about what it will do to your thyroid.
So I have a lot of questions here. One of the questions is, where can we buy good kimchi and sauerkraut in Bangalore? We are available in Nature's Basket. You can find MAVI's, but you can also order online if that's okay. The delivery time is not a lot. You can order on Amazon or directly with us as well. Can we have it? Can we have it after? Can you have it empty stomach after? Can we have it in empty stomach after fermentation? Do you mean tepache? Samsung SM-G781B. Guys, hi.
I think I think it's about the fermented vegetables because it was been
You can
talked.
have, okay. So you can have whatever you want anytime. These are fermented food. These are just your regular food, just healthier. And you let your body decide if it likes it when you do it. That's about it.
Another question was after fermentation, what to do with the water that the carrots are submerged in?
Oh, once the carrots are finished, the brine is brilliant. You can add it to, you can make like a drink out of it, and you can have like a shot of it before your meal or with your meal. It's salt and good bacteria, etc. Good for your gut health, etc. You can also have the brine. Brine is fantastic.
We only have 4 minutes of the Q&A session. Are there more questions? Please ask.
In the
You
first
could unmute.
recipe,
Are fermented foods good for autoimmune condition? Guys, bug speak is what are the people who will help you with something like this. Autoimmune conditions are very, very specific to people in that sense. And what your body needs or your body does not want is something that you'll have to figure out with time and with a little bit of self-awareness, a little bit of patience. You can figure out what your body wants and then you can take it from there.
yeah, I have one more question. Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Seema
Yeah.
was asking. After that, we'll take Mr. Sunil's question.
Yeah, I was asking after the carrots ferment, you told you can refrigerate it. Should we refrigerate with the water or discard the water and refrigerate it?
No, just like this, just the jar.
Oh, the jar
Just like
itself.
that.
Okay.
The brine is a preservative. The brine will help.
Okay.
The brine will help you preserve the carrots for a long time.
Okay. While eating, we can pick the carrots and eat. Okay. Okay.
You can have the carrots. You can also have the brine. Like I said, anything in the jar is consumable.
Okay. Okay.
You have to choose your experience. Some people eat the chiku with the peel. Some people eat it without the peel. What is the right way? You decide.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sir, can we put that after the procedure, can we put it in a refrigerator?
Not now. You have to let it ferment. So you have to let it ferment at room temperature for about a week, 10 days. And then refrigerate.
We will be sending you a proper document outlining the assignment as well as the recipe and all the instructions after the session so that you get a proper idea. Yes, Mrs. Sunil, you had a question?
Yeah, hi. You see, my gut health score is 2.25. Can I still consume this? And there are specific issues in that. One is kingdom distribution, and other is pathogen characterization. So I have two issue further in this. So my gut score is 2.25. So can I consume this?
Rohini ma'am, please.
Yeah, Mr. Sharma, we can maybe take your case up after the session.
All right.
We can discuss it later separately. We would have
All
to
right.
have a look at your report in detail before we respond back to your query.
Okay.
All right. Can it be done today only?
Yeah, we can do next week. Would that be okay?
Well, I'm already running late because it's been quite a while that I've got this report.
No worries. We will get in touch with you after the session is done.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
There is another
Thank you.
question before we sort of log out last minute. Is a single wash in running water okay? I think you're talking about the pineapples being washed. And the thing is that with pineapple or any other veggie, as long as you are sure that you've got the muck off and any other thing, maybe some whatever that might be on the skin, you've gotten it off, you've washed it off with water, that should be good enough. If that's one single run, two runs, you want to use a small soft brush to sort of rub the peel off, etc., that's totally up to you.
Is apple cider vinegar good for empty stomach along with water? There's another question.
Apple cider vinegar with water is a great option. but just make sure that your apple cider vinegar is a proper good vinegar. That's about it. And make sure you use a straw when you're drinking it, because the apple cider vinegar is very strong and can harm your teeth. So make sure you're using a straw when you're drinking it.
I think we are done with the Q&A session. We are already, now it's 6 p.m. It was a great session indeed. Rohini ma'am, do you have any inputs, last inputs that you would like to give for all our participants?
Yes, so I'm sure all of us have benefited really with Mr. Vikram's session today, and I'm confident that everyone is going to try some fermented food at home. And of course, any other questions you have while doing it, maybe post it in the group itself so that one of us can help you out there. And I think we can share the contact details of Mr. Vikram also on our WhatsApp chat, so that anyone wants to purchase the fermented products from him can get in touch with him as well. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you once again, Vikram, for showing us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes,
Brilliant. I hope I added some value to everyone who was attending the session. And there is so much to talk about fermentation. 45 minutes, 1 hour, it just passes by. It was supposed to be 1 hour session. We've almost done close to 2. But you're welcome to answer any questions that you might have. I am available on Instagram at Vikram_brewer_Mittal or kombucha.in. That is KOMBUCHA.IN. And you can message me there and I will be happy to answer your questions. And of course, the WhatsApp group. Please feel free to message.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
If there are
Vikram.
no more questions, we can wrap up now, Diksha.
Right. Yes, thank you all to all the online viewers as well who are watching us. If you also have any questions, please drop it on the comments section. We will get the answers from Mr. Vikram soon. And yeah, it was an amazing session powered by Buckspeaks and Microbiome Gazers exclusive. And thank you all the participants for such an interactive session indeed. And we will be posting the